Peter, hello. Thank you so much for joining me for this edition of our lockdown series on motivation. It's great to see you and have you sharing your views. So thank you.
My absolute pleasure. A few technical issues this morning, but I seem to be over them now, and I'm delighted to be online.
Oh, fantastic! So we'll be talking through motivation. Naturally, it's kind of it's our views. There's no sort of magic formula. So yeah, if there are any takeaways for people, brilliant. But yeah, by no means it's not. It's no gospel, is it? Let's face it.
And I think it's really important to say that it is a view. And I've seen some really great stuff on the internet recently that says we're all in the same boat. Well, quite clearly we're not. Some people are in luxury cruise liners, some people are in dinghies, some people have got 5 people in their boat, some people are on a boat all by themselves. So everyone will have a different view on this at the moment. And that's great, because if it stimulates conversation, then that's a really fantastic thing. And that's what, the purpose of today's conversation, I think, to make you stop and think. And if it adds to value, that's fantastic. If it doesn't, then, so be it.
Yeah. So when we sort of just give it a sort of a thought, then why do you think it's important for sort of people to sort of get some sort of motivation within themselves? How does it kind of contribute to their overall well-being, I suppose?
So, as you'd expect, with some preparation. So I'm going to cheat for just for a second or two. I don't normally do this, but I'm going to refer to my notes here because I want to get this bit right. So I looked this up in the dictionary. So motivation. So motivation can either be a purpose, or it could be having specific goals. It might be about behaving in a certain way. It could be a desire or willingness to do something. It might be enthusiasm. Or it might be just a way of keeping interested. All of those things are motivation. And I suppose the thing that we need to take some time to reflect at the moment, right now, is that when we go through change, our motivation becomes affected. So one of those things, our purpose, our goal, our behavior, our desire or willingness, our enthusiasm, our interest levels changes. And we have to kind of acknowledge that because it has changed, we might need to take some action about it. And therefore, it's time now just to stop. And perhaps it's a good time with Mental Health Awareness Week to kind of reflect and kind of go, how am I doing? And should I be doing anything differently?
Yeah. And I think it's, with times the way they are now, I think it's a really important message, isn't it? Because there is a view that when people do get into a routine, they can literally just sort of operate at one speed and then potentially kind of take their eye off certain things, and one of those things might actually be themselves, I suppose, as well, and just sort of understand where their focuses are because they're too busy and occupied doing perhaps something over here.
Well, I think the other thing to remember is that change is something that happens continuously. And there are 2 types of change. There's change that you yourself decide that you want to make happen. And that could be a small change, it might be a big change. But there's also change that happens that's forced upon you. And right now, most of the change that we're going through is being forced upon us. And that puts us in a very different comfort zone, one that we're in control of. And so, if you use the Kubler-Ross curve, things like denying, going through that emotional state, starting to get to that point where you accept that things are different, and then committing to that change is something that we may be doing even on a daily basis, let alone 8 weeks that we've been in lockdown so far.
Yeah. And in your view then, are there certain, whether it's activities or processes that people can consider just to kind of help them get some form of motivation then if they feel that that's something that they need to address?
Well, I think it's important just to stop as an individual or even, if you've got someone to talk this through with and kind of just think about some things, so primarily, first of all, what has changed? What has changed for you? Go back to those key words. Has your purpose changed? Has your behavior changed because you can't behave in the normal way because you're working at home, you're not in an office, you've had to adapt your style? Is your willingness to do something because your routine has changed not as high as it could be? Is your enthusiasm levels, I can't really be bothered because there's not enough work to do, or there is a reason behind these things. And so understanding what has changed may help you to then go to the next question, which is what's really important to you. And that's a difficult one because it's quite personal. And sometimes a good old-fashioned list about writing down some things that are important. So right now, some things like family welfare, providing a meal, being a teacher is more important than securing a great day's work or finishing a project on time. So your purposes, your goals, personally may have changed. And that's okay. That's absolutely perfect and fine. There's no reason why they shouldn't. But your motivation, therefore, will be high on your first three goals, which is your family and your education and food and nutrition, and maybe less so on your working. And so, therefore, spending 7-8 hours a day in front of your laptop on constant video calls will be demotivating because that's not the area under which you're really, really wanting to put your energy into. So I think it's really important that you look at what's changed and what's important to you.
And as time moves forward and circumstances evolve, then what's your take on if somebody does make some positive steps forward and sort of make some adjustments to how they conduct themselves? What if then further change happens? How do they kind of get back in that saddle and sort of get through the process again?
Well, I think the thing we've learned is that change is constant. So don't, again, I refer back to the Kubler-Ross model. And if you've not seen that before, I suggest, drop me a note and I'll send you the link to it. It's not something you go through once. It's something you go through every time you change. And so, as I alluded to earlier on, this might be something you're going through on a daily basis, kind of denying or resisting that change. Becoming quite emotional about it, why it's not fair, it's not okay, I'm a bit sad, I'm a bit angry. And then you start to accept what that change may be. And then actually when you get through that acceptance, you might start to then commit to the change and really kind of decide what it is you want to do. One of the biggest and most powerful tools I find you can do is to stop, and this is a tool I use in problem solving all the time. Ask yourself the question, why? Why is this happening? What's changed? Why is this important to me? Why do I want to be motivated about this subject, this area, this thing? So, for example, if we pick 2 or 3 of those areas, let's go back to the very beginning. My behavior has changed. Well, why has it changed? And if you can understand the why, you might be able to understand the things that you might need to change to adapt to get that motivation level back. My interest level seems to have dropped. Well, why has it dropped? Because I'm on 8 hours of Zoom calls every day. It's difficult to keep motivated. What can I do about it? I'll take regular breaks. I'll drink more. I'll change subjects. I will reach out to people to try and get some help. My enthusiasm levels have dropped. Well, why? Why have they dropped? Because I'm trying to do 10 things at once. I'm in a different environment. I don't have supportive colleagues around me. Okay, when you start to understand the why, and the challenge, Simon, is to really be brutally honest with yourself.
Yeah.
And there are some small telltale signs. You might have colleagues or friends or people who are near you just starting to reach out to you and kind of saying, are you okay? Can I help? Is anything the matter? But take some time to understand that the world has changed. And that your motivation levels may certainly drop, and that it's absolutely understandable. But the important thing
is, this is an area I want to discuss in more detail with you. So I think what we'll do is we're going to take a short break, and then afterwards we're going to delve more into the why and the purpose that some people can identify with and start to address perhaps some of the issues that they might be experiencing. So we'll be back shortly.